talking the Auburn Tigers today on Sharpen the Point. 2024, it was a 5-7 season and a step back for the program, but somewhat expected as they seemingly wanted to develop young talent that season prior to supplementing it by spending big in this portal cycle and going all in here. Head coach Hugh Freeze, in his third season now, he's firmly on the hot seat as this is fully his roster. He can't blame the previous staff and Brian Harsin. They just flat out need to produce this season for him to get off of it. Quarterback-wise, Peyton Thorne, he was much improved last season but still lacked consistency. And he never had the ceiling necessary to get Auburn where they need to be. He was never going to be the answer no matter what. Now with him gone, enters Jackson Arnold from Oklahoma. The Sooners chose to roll with him last year rather than bringing Dylan Gabriel back for his final collegiate season. That didn't exactly pan out. As their confidence in Arnold wasn't unfounded, though, as the former five-star prospect showed well in the 2023 bowl game with 361 yards passing and 2 touchdowns against Arizona, while adding another 38 yards on the ground, and he repeatedly hit big plays throughout that second half. We did choose to ignore the 3 interceptions here because there was enough flash and expected growth from his first start to work with. It all kind of went off the rails, though, as the line was abysmal, actually the worst in the country at Oklahoma last season. And the wide receiver core was flat out absent due to a rash of injuries, leading to Arnold eventually being benched mid-season and then brought back into the fold because Michael Hawkins wasn't the guy either. Still, though, I believe in Arnold. I think he has a massive passing upside that has yet to be tapped into while presenting a good floor with his rushing capability, which he really showcased in beating Alabama last year with 131 yards rushing. I'm buying stock in Arnold to turn it around this season and easily be a top half of the league quarterback here for the Tigers. Behind him, true freshmen Deuce Knight and Ashton Daniels, who comes over from Stanford, they're going to battle for the right to back up Arnold. Hugh Freeze needs to win right now, so Knight is unlikely to see a prominent role even if Arnold were to go down. Daniels is extremely limited, though, and he does have starting experience, which is really helping him. He did miss the spring while still in school at Stanford, giving Knight the early edge here, though he should get up to speed rather quickly given his experience. Running back-wise, Jarquez Hunter, he was perennially a sore spot for me over the last 2 seasons. I just could never figure out when he was going to have that big game, even as the clear lead back. He was extremely hit or miss on a week-to-week basis, but his counting stats were solid with 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. I would think that replacing him as a bell cow is going to be somewhat difficult. Damari Alston, he was the primary backup to Hunter and thus is the favorite to start. But there will be no bell cow this season similar to what they had with Hunter, as both Jeremiah Cobb and Darrell Robinson, who comes over from UConn, have experience and they're going to rotate in plenty as well. Alston and Cobb, they really have the leg up here, having been in this system for a couple seasons. I think Robinson, though, is the most talented, although he has only shown it against inferior competition. I think Alston remains a constant in the backfield for the year no matter what, as the primary guy early in the season, with Robinson really coming on strong as this season progresses. Pass catcher-wise, this is the exciting portion of this team, that's for sure, on the offensive side. The trio of Keandre Lambert-Smith and the 2 freshmen, Cam Coleman and Malcolm Simmons, they performed really well as a group given the quarterback play they had to work with. Lambert-Smith paced the group, surprisingly, with nearly 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns, but he now moves on to the next level. Coleman and Simmons are going to return, with Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech added into the mix as a very promising starting trio. I think Singleton's an upgrade on Lambert-Smith. Coleman, he was a 5-star recruit and the headliner of that class. He started the season slow but burst onto the scene over the final 3 weeks of the season with stat lines of 8 catches, 100 yards, and 3 touchdowns, 7 catches, 128 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and a 7-catch, 78-yard, 1 touchdown finale, leading to all signs pointing to a monster season, breaking out in year 2 as the top target on the team. Simmons, he's going to start in the slot, and while he should be a solid contributor throughout the season, he never quite had that monster game last year. I think he's likely 3rd or maybe even 4th in the pecking order this season, depending on some of the factors. And then I really thought Singleton would land somewhere like Miami that lacked a true go-to wide receiver. He should be the top target in an offense. And he would fill that role since he was one of, if not the top wide receiver in the portal this season. He's put together 2 straight seasons over 700 yards. And last year's total really could have been much higher had quarterback Haynes King not had an arm issue that relegated the offense to a run-only scheme for a number of weeks there in the middle of it. Singleton's likely to be the Robin to Coleman's Batman as a 1-2 punch who can line up at any spot in the formation with exceptional speed on his side, and he's going to be successful wherever he is. I would argue they upgraded from Lambert Smith to Singleton. I know that's going to be somewhat of a hot take there, but Singleton's one heck of a player. Perry Thompson, he's the other 5-star freshman from last season. He did not contribute much, but standing at 6'3", 217, he brings nice size and physicality to the room. He's going to see the field plenty as a part of the rotation in the beginning of the year, and I would not be surprised if he starts to play more on the outside to let Singleton slide into the slot with Simmons coming off the field more, or they bring out 4 wide receiver sets. You know, to me, speaking of those, a 4 wide receiver setting of Coleman and Thompson on the outside with Singleton and Simmons in the slot should keep opposing defensive coordinators awake at night because that is one scary proposition. The 2024 Auburn recruiting class for wide receivers specifically may go down as one of the best in school history for good reason, with those 3 being the highlights. At tight end, Rivaldo Fairweather, he never quite lived up to his receiving potential that we thought he could have coming over from FIU. With the top 2 in the room now gone and the host of talent on the outside, I just expect the tight end position to be more blockers than anything else. I don't know that they really contribute much in the pass game. Offensive line-wise, to put it nicely, the line was not the best last season, but the good news is that this season they're going to have more experience with the reps they got a year ago, and they brought in reinforcements to shore up around them. The Tigers went into the offseason wanting to acquire a left tackle, and they need to spend in the portal to do that, and they did just that by bringing in Xavier Chaplin from Virginia Tech. Chaplin is likely a 1-year stopgap here, given he's going to play on Sundays, but it's going to be money well spent to keep Arnold upright and that pocket clean. Dylan Wade, he's going to move from left tackle back to left guard. That's where the staff wanted him to play all along, so he's going to be a better fit there. Corner Connor Liu, he was their best lineman a year ago. He's the unquestioned leader of this team and unit, and I expect him to have a big season there in the middle. Right guard Jeremiah Wright, he also returns for his 6th season. He was also one of the top guys for them as a nice pairing with Lou. They have a really nice combo block scheme on that right side there. And then right tackle, it's the one spot along the line with a true ongoing competition. Xavier Miller and Mason Murphy, he comes over from USC. They're going to battle it out for this starting role. Miller was the starter last season, and he can play either tackle spot, which he showed in the spring with Chaplin injured, moving over to that left side. His familiarity with the system and experience likely gives him a slight edge out of the gate, but I'm not counting out Murphy. I think because of that Chaplin injury and them putting Miller at left, it kind of tells me that they want Murphy to be that starting right tackle because he started for the Trojans the last 2 seasons on that right side, and him getting all those reps really shows me that they want Miller to be more prepared for a swing role than a starting role. Defensive line-wise, they lose a good bit of depth from a unit that was stout against the run. They allowed just 3 yards per carry and only 3 rushes all season that went for more than 30 yards. The good news here is that their star player, Keldrick Falk, he returns off a 7-sack season where he developed into their best defensive player, and he's someone who gives offensive lines they're going to have to pay extra attention to him. And if he can get double-digit sack season, then his name's going to be called very early in next year's draft. Amaris Williams, he's someone that is a physical specimen. If he can start to put it together and be a compliment to Falk, then they could really go places off the edge here. And there's going to be a ton of rotation at defensive tackle. They need to find a way to get some production here. Malik Blockton, he's going to lead the way. He's the player to watch after coming on strong as a freshman last season, flashing some pass rushing skills. Those earned him freshman All-American honors. And then with so much attention being paid to Falk, He's going to benefit from single blockers being assigned to him. They need some of these freshmen to step up to complement Blockton to reach their true potential and ceiling along the line. Quintrell Jamison Travis, he's going to start at nose tackle. But similar to the D tackle spot, there's going to be a ton of rotation with freshman Jordan Crawford and Dallas Walker. He comes from Western Kentucky. They're going to mix in a ton. Jamison Travis was a reliable piece for them last season, occupying blockers to free up his teammates to make plays. Crawford's a wild card, but he has the ability to contribute right away as a freshman. Linebacker-wise, losses of the top four of the top five here, and the top four and five of the top seven. Whew, that's a lot of depth gone. It's really the loss of Jalen McLeod stings the most here. He was an absolute stud getting after the quarterback. Even with all the losses, though, they did bring in a good bit of talent from the portal and the high school ranks to add to what was left over. There's stiff competition for the starting spot at the Buck with returner Kayron Crawford and Chris Murray from Sam Houston State. Crawford was a part of the rotation off the edge last season. He took first-team reps in the spring, giving him that early edge. Murray, though, he's not as familiar with the scheme. He was an impact player for the Bearcats, posting 5.5 sacks. That tells me he's likely to take over here sooner rather than later. In the middle, Caleb Wheatland from Maryland. He's likely to take over as the leader of this inexperienced room. Wheatland started 25 games in his time with the Terps, giving him the necessary experience to be the voice of the defense, which they dearly need. Robert Woodyard, he's going to be the understudy. His time's coming. It's just not quite here yet, but he's going to be able to learn a lot from Wheatland. DeMarcus Reddick, he returns on the weak side off a strong freshman season. His speed and ability to sift through the trees to make plays is going to keep him on the field as long as he is at Auburn. Defensive back-wise, the secondary has a significant amount of young talent that's emerging. They lost some depth in the room due to being passed by more youthful counterparts here, but they have done a very nice job in recruiting in the portal to keep talent in the room. At cornerback, the top two look to be solidified with Jay Crawford and K.N. Lee returning. Crawford's coming off a strong freshman season. He brings the ability to stay hip-to-hip with his matchup. And Lee is a much more physical corner. He chooses to try to separate the pass catcher from the ball with violent intentions. He's a fun one to watch. Behind them, Rayon Strader. He comes over from Miami of Ohio. He was a significant contributor on a quality defense in the MAC last year. He can rotate in and replace the top two when needed with a little drop-off in production here. Champ Anthony, he returns to the nickel spot. It's welcomed after he suffered a nasty leg injury early in the year last year. He was one of the better defensive backs prior to going down, so he'll be nice to get him back. The safety spots are really in great shape with strong competition. Caleb Harris and Sylvester Smith, they're projected to be the top pairing to begin the season based on their spring performances. However, true freshman Anquan Fagans, he's a strong contender to see snaps early with the chance to work his way into a starting role by season's end. Looking at the schedule and outlook for this season, I'm a big believer in Jackson Arnold. The weapons on the outside are some of the best in the country, and I do, however, have concerns about how capable the backs are to be able to complement him with a run game. They should have room to run with lighter boxes and a good to very good line up front. The wideouts are so electric that they can help as a part of that run game with sweeps and screens and short passes to act as an extension of that run game. And they recruited extremely well the prior to last season. Now's really the time to cash in on that. Improvement in the red zone is going to go a long way to changing their fortunes this season. The defense has plenty of quality pieces to build around, with Keldrick Falk being the top guy. Linebacker looks to be the weakest position group to me, but it's still plenty serviceable. They did a 180 in recruiting cycles and brought in a big crop of talent on the defensive side this year. So if some of those guys can hit early, like they did on offense last year with Coleman, Simmons being contributors right out the gate, that's only going to make them better. Schedule-wise, at Baylor, this is a coin flip. This is an underrated week one game. It's going to be a fun one. I think it's on Friday night. What a blast that's going to be to watch. They return a lot at Baylor, and Sawyer Robertson is actually good. I think that's a tough opener on the road against Dave Aranda's Bears. Ball State win. South Alabama, easy win. At Oklahoma, I'm going to lean win between the Jackson-Arnold revenge game and my questions about how John Mateer performs up at this level. He struggled with P4 teams last season. I think that ultimately Auburn has the edge here and should be able to get the job done. At Texas A&M, coin flip game again for me. I'm not a Marcel Reed believer. I believe in Jackson Arnold a lot more, but he is a dynamic player, and they do have dynamic players around him. If they can't stop Texas A&M's run game, they're going to be in for a long night. Georgia lost. I think Georgia's one of the three most talented teams in the SEC. Missouri lean win here. I think Missouri's going to be down a little bit. I don't trust Bo Pribula. At Arkansas, I'm going to lean win. I think Taylon Green can sneak up on you. It's a tough place to play, but I'm imagining that's around hunting season, so the crowd might be a little sparse. Should be able to get a win there. Kentucky win. At Vanderbilt, also lean win. That's only a lean for the simple fact that Diego Pavia is going to catch somebody out, and he's going to win a game and will them to a win at some point during the season. At Vandy, tough place to play with Pavia. They're going to sneak up and catch some people, so you got to be careful there. Mercer, easy win, getting ready for Alabama. We know the Iron Bowl is always a coin flip. You know, it's just any given day, any given year, who's going to win that game. When you combine my belief in Arnold with the weapons he has to work with and the upside on the defense, my outlook is rather positive for Auburn this season. 7 wins feels like the floor, and that might feel low, but that's something they haven't done since 2019. So that would be a fine season for me, for them. And in a best case scenario, this could be a 9-win season with hopes being very high heading into 2026.